Let me know if this has ever happened to you, right? You figured you're gonna start making a beat, you're gonna start making a single, you're gonna work on an album. You've got a great idea for some cool stuff that you're about to work on, but you're not quite sure what it's gonna sound like yet. You're kind of waiting for some inspiration to strike, maybe an idea, maybe a melody or something like that. Wait an hour, maybe not today. Let me give it a week and see if something comes up. Maybe I'll get a vibe, I'll listen to some music. You're not really catching anything. Some time goes by, you open up the DAW a couple of times, and then all of a sudden you're like, nothing I feel is really hitting, close it, cancel. Takes ages to come up with something, and ultimately it takes way longer than you hoped to get that idea on the table. That's happened to me an absolute ton of times. And this is really what I wanted to dig into today, because this is something that I noticed that once I managed to implement and managed to kind of embody, not only did my output increase massively, but my skills skyrocketed as well. The main thing that I wanted to get into in this video is the difference between a beginner, a producer, hobbyist, someone who does it just for fun, which is absolutely fine if that's you, and a professional, right? Someone who has the capacity, ability to turn it into a career. A lot of people tell you it's something technical. I don't necessarily believe it is. Depending on your genre, depending on your skill set, your network and what you're doing, it requires different skills, right? So that's obviously not the identifying factor. But what actually is? I believe the key actually is professionals do not wait for inspiration, okay? If you're having this issue where you're opening up the DAW, not feeling any energy, if you're closing it again and then leaving, what is gonna happen is you're not gonna have enough inspirational ideas condensed into a small enough time to be able to iterate over and develop those skills, right? What people don't actually talk about is the habit of building inspiration is actually a skill as well. The more that you're creating, the more ideas you're gonna have. Don't have to take my word for it. Go back through any of my videos and you'll see my process. A lot of the times in the beginning of these videos, I don't have an idea where I'm gonna start. And in fact, before I record the videos, a lot of the times what you don't see is I can't even really be bothered. I'm like, today, I don't really wanna make a beat. But I open it up anyways, and it becomes part of a ritual for me. Something that I do consistently. And then what happens is over time, as I start putting in basic ideas, inspiration will come from the stuff that's already in the DAW. So the inspiration comes after the creation process, right? The motivation comes after the action. So this is something that I want to instill in you guys, right? Don't wait for the inspiration to come. Rather, build into your routine, build into your schedule a time when you're going to dedicate to making music. And that is the time when you're going to be doing that regardless of whether you're inspired or not. That isn't something that factors in. It's helpful, it's great, it's nice to be there. Sometimes it's not, but that's really not going to dictate whether you're creating today or not. Try this out, see how it works. I think it's going to change your life, because genuinely, as a professional, the reason I make this distinction is because ultimately, once you start doing this for money, you're going to realize that when you're working to brief, when you're working to clients, when you're working for all of these different types of deadlines, ultimately you don't get to wait for inspiration. You have to be able to come up with things on the fly. That can sound like it's a drag. It can sound like it can take energy away from the craft, but actually if you do it in the right way, it actually puts energy back into it, because all of a sudden you're forced to work within those limitations, and limitations breed creativity. Okay, so if you manage to work within those deadlines, work within those timeframes, oftentimes you end up with some of the stuff that previously you wouldn't do, and you can end up with some of your best stuff. Here's something else that I want to tackle with this particular one. Once you sit down in these sessions, oftentimes the reason why we don't feel inspired is because we need to make something that feels like it's as good, if not better than our last beat or better than our last track. That's not true. That's a misnomer. You have to give yourself permission to make like doo-doo tracks, basically. You have to be okay with the idea that it's okay to make tracks that are arse. And what I would actually encourage you do is, if you feel like you're making a track that's not vibing with you, see if you can identify in like some tangible way what it is you don't like. Is it the beat? Is it the pads? Is it the drums? Is it you messed up the groove? Is it not your energy, headspace, whatever? And if you can actually articulate what it is past just that vibe of not liking it, that's where you're going to see the most growth, because you're going to be able to make an actual change to turn something from something you don't like to something you do like. And you develop what you feel like is your sound when you can understand what it is exactly that you like, what sound selections, what tempos, all of these sort of things. Give yourself the capacity to be able to make trash, and all of a sudden what you're going to find is that actually inspiration doesn't really have to factor into it too much. A great idea doesn't have to come in and save you. You can just kind of sit down, make something. It's okay if it's arse. And actually, if it is arse, a lot of the times you're going to be able to make the adjustments to find out how it can be good in the future again. You can be like, oh, okay, now I know that when I did this, all I need to do for me to make it into something that I like is switch it from here to here to here to here. Kind of the action step is that if you can build it in even once, twice, 3 times a week, whatever you're doing, and then in those areas where you have like maybe you sit down at your desk and you're really not feeling it, give yourself 10 minutes. 20 minutes of just powering through that uncomfortable phase. Oftentimes you'll find that inspiration, like I say, will come, and then by the 25 minutes you're loving it, you're enjoying, you're making stuff incredible again. It's okay if not. If you give yourself half an hour of production time and half an hour is you don't end up with anything good, that's okay as well. Just think of it as a number of times it takes before you end up with your another hit, but you have to get through those times before you get to your other hit. So don't judge yourself, don't stress about it. Try and build up that consistency. Don't worry about the inspiration, and see how quickly your skills develop, as now you're actively getting practice instead of just waiting for that inspiration to strike, which frankly I believe doesn't happen often enough to compete with people who are doing it very, very often. I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Again, this is a different kind of video. I'm enjoying making these kind of talking ones where I just give you some of my mindset stuff that I'm going through right now. A lot of stuff that I think could have helped me when I was a little bit earlier in my career. Let me know if you're feeling this sort of stuff. As usual, guys, I've got my coaching down below. So if you feel like you might be right for one-to-one coaching, check that out. I've got my courses down below, check that out. And also I've started my weekly newsletter. I've got some really cool stuff I think is super helpful. Those will be in the links in the description. I hope you guys have a great day. Leave any questions below. I'm going to be answering them. I love you guys. You are the absolute best. I'm going to catch you guys super soon. But for now, peace out.